You can tell a lot about the state of an empire by where its generals are forced to sit. For 20 years, the American High Command sat in green zones and bunkers, dictating terms through the barrel of a Hellfire missile. But today the air in the Serena Hotel in Islamabad is thick with something they haven't smelled in a generation, the scent of their own limitations.
It's more than that. It's the smell of a failed prophecy. Remember the pivot to Asia, that grand Obama era geopolitical promise that the US would finally extract itself from the sunk cost of the Middle East to face the rising sun in the East? It was supposed to be the American century's second act. Instead, the 2026 Iran US war turned that pivot into a pirouette, a dizzying, desperate spin that has left Washington's security in a heap on the floor.
And here we are, recording this on Monday the 20th. We're staring at the literal wreckage of diplomacy. While we were talking about a Monday morning massacre last week, things have reached a fever pitch today. The news just broke. The new US Navy has officially seized an Iranian-linked vessel in international waters, claiming it was violating the interdiction rules of the blockade.
It's madness. While the world was watching the Marriott and the Serena in Islamabad, hoping for a 45-day extension of the April 8th ceasefire, the US just threw a grenade into the room. And by seizing that ship, they haven't just enforced a blockade. They've effectively declared that international waters are now a private American lake.
And the fallout is immediate. The Islamabad talks, which were already on life support, are now practically dead. The Iranian delegation is reportedly refusing to return to the plenary session until the ship is released. We're in the fragilest of ceasefires, and even if it holds, economic normalcy in the Persian Gulf and the wider world remains months away. Let's talk about the talks. Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in Islamabad on Saturday. He sat there for 21 hours before walking out on Sunday morning, claiming Iran wouldn't make an affirmative commitment. But if you listen to Professor Mohammad Marandi, who was right there in the thick of it, he tells a very different story.
Morandi's point is crucial. Iran has zero trust. They watched the US use the ceasefire as a window to reposition THAAD batteries and move the USS Abraham Lincoln closer. Morandi called it a battle between good and evil, which sounds theatrical, but in the context of imperial gaslighting, it's a fair description of the power dynamic. Iran is playing a war of survival, and they're using the talks to show the world who the real aggressor is.
And then there's Pravin Sawhney. Sawhney has been screaming into the void that the US is fighting a 20th century war against a 21st century reality. Most mainstream analysts talk about carrier dominance, but Sawhney points out that Iran has decentralized its command. You cannot decapitate a force that doesn't rely on a single head.
Swanee notes that the technological leap, thanks to Chinese satellite integration, means the US can't actually enforce this blockade without taking massive, unsustainable losses. The USS Abraham Lincoln is sitting in the central Indian Ocean specifically because it's terrified of high precision missiles. The prestige of America is literally being kept at arm's length. This is where the metaphysical irony kicks in. While Washington was frantically relocating assets from South Korea to protect their bases in the Gulf, something happened in East Asia that effectively ended the American era there without a single Tomahawk missile being fired.
The silent masterstroke. While the US was busy destroying bridges, China didn't move a muscle. They didn't invade Taiwan. Instead, they invited the Taiwanese opposition to Beijing to talk about shared prosperity.
It's the ultimate Sun Tzu moment. While the Marines were being ordered to pack up in Japan and sail west, Beijing was talking about peace. The pivot to Asia is now in dire circumstances because the pivot turned out to be a hollow promise.
Tokyo and Seoul are watching their security guarantor take the fire extinguisher from their hallway and run to a building fire in Hormuz. The security umbrella didn't just leak, it vanished.
I want to pivot to the feminist angle. Last week, Modern Diplomacy published a critique arguing that this conflict is embedded in a patriarchal logic of masculine domination. Maximum pressure is just a geopolitical euphemism for domestic abuse.
It's a pissing context with hypersonic missiles.
Right. Think about the blockade and this latest ship seizure. Who manages the domestic sphere when the rupee collapses? It's women. A study just warned that Pakistan's inflation could hit 12.5% because of Hormuz disruption. That's the invisible dimension of work that women perform to keep families alive while men talk about maritime sovereignty.
The US claims to save Iranian women while simultaneously blockading the food and medicine they need to survive. The security being discussed at the Serena Hotel has nothing to do with the security of a woman in Gwadar whose husband can't fish because of Navy exclusion zones. We can't talk about these talks without mentioning the spoiler Israel. They view any deal as an existential threat to their regional monopoly on violence. But there's a new friction point Pakistan. For 30 years, we were a failing state with nukes. Now we are the literal anchor of Gulf security.
Pakistan has leveraged its geography and its military diplomatic rigor. While the US used pressure, Pakistan used maximum proximity. We're the only party everyone, Tehran, Washington, Riyadh, and Beijing, is willing to talk to in the same room.
And the Indian media is having a collective nervous breakdown. They're watching Pakistan, the country they've spent a decade isolating, become the diplomatic capital of the world. They're probably writing the script of Dhurandhar 3 right now, where a brave commando secretly saves the talks.
How a brave Indian commander secretly told J.D. Vance what to say. They have to manufacture a role because they've been sidelined by their own garrison state.
We're watching the ink dry on a new world map. The Islamabad Talks 2026 are the funeral for the 20th century's illusions. The US is realizing it's just another country, whereas Pakistan is realizing that it has another role to play in the Middle East.
It's a metaphysical shift. We're moving from a world of hegemony to a world of negotiation. It's messier, but it's more honest. No kings, no masters, just the rigorous work of building a world that doesn't need an umbrella held by a dying empire.
And despite the ship Caesar, the delegation are still here in Islamabad. They haven't fully packed their bags because even empires realize they can't eat their own pride forever.
Stay skeptical, stay angry, and we'll see you, hopefully, next week. The reason that this episode got delayed was, well, because of everything that's been going on in the world and the news cycle, we've been a little busy. But hopefully, we'll see you next week.
From the basement, this is Armpit Intellectuals.